So hi, I'm Niveditha.indrajit and I'm in conversation with Chandana Bawa.
Hello,
He's,
thank you. Thank you for having me on.
to my knowledge, you are a certified access facilitator, a talk to entities facilitator. You're also a counselor and
I'm
body
also
process.
I'm also
Yes.
a Parents Conscious Kids Facilitator, and I have my own specialty class called Creating Beyond.
Hmm.
And yes, I am a counselor too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would like to know how your journey started.
Well, how my journey started, I just feel I've always been in this. It's like, well, with access, it started about 6 years ago. Prior to that, I was looking at changing a certain situation in my body that was not changing after having worked with a lot of doctors, with a lot of other therapies, and a lot of, and being from coming from India, we have Ayurveda, we have a lot of gods and gurus, and we have a lot of yoga and naturopathy, hydrotherapy,
Yeah.
acupuncture, acupressure. I tried everything, but what I was suffering at that time was something known as fibromyalgia,
Hmm.
which was this extremely painful body um, disease that had no reason, that had no explanation as to why it shows up, because it's not genetic. There
Hmm.
is nothing that shows up in the MRIs or or in anything else that they do.
Yeah.
And it's generally zeroed down to as psychological
Hmm.
or stress related, and is given the name of fibromyalgia,
Okay.
and it's something that's not curable.
Hmm.
And it's like the only thing that the medicine that they can give you is an antidepressant that
Hmm.
actually slows down your process, calms down your brain and slows down the muscles. And by the end of it, you're walking around like a zombie, because
Hmm.
even when you're not in depression, they are taking an antidepressant. And
Hmm.
I had fibromyalgia um, since the age of 29. Actually, I had something known as a disc prolapse at the age of 29. And
Okay.
then fibromyalgia was what was diagnosed at the age of about 30, 33. And
Hmm.
when I got into access, I was 47. So for
Hmm.
those many years, for almost 18 years, I had been, fighting body pain, fighting, trying out different things. One doctor would say surgery, one doctor would say something, one doctor would say something, and I was on medication, cortisone, steroids, injections. That was my life. Now when I look at it, that's all I really did. It was just a doctor and home, hospitals and home. And when I would go out with family also, I was always scared that what if I get an attack?
Okay.
It was like I lived in that fear of pain.
And how did you manage with the children at that time? I'm sure they must be very young.
Yeah, Isha, my older one, was just 3 or 4 when it started.
Mm.
And she literally saw me through it.
Mm.
My family has been extremely supportive.
Mm.
And it really helped me a lot, just knowing that, they would have my back through it all.
Yeah.
And yeah, my younger one came along much later when I was 35. So, there's a
Mm.
10-year gap between the two of them.
Okay.
And yeah, and in fact, I remember doctors telling me, don't try and have a baby because you'll not be able to carry it, your body can't take it. But
Mm.
you know when you tell a humanoid not to do something, they will
Yes.
go and do just the opposite. That's pretty much what happened with me. And I had the easiest delivery, the
Yeah.
most. And yeah, so it's just, yeah. And then at the age of about 47, after 18 years of that pain, uh, I got to know about access. And I got a session from a really wonderful facilitator. And I won't really say it changed anything dramatically for me, but it just kind of calmed my mind. My mind
Mm.
stopped. There was a sense of calmness after the bar session. I didn't
Mm.
understand that calmness. I was trying to understand, what is this calmness like? Why is there so much calmness? Like, I don't feel
You're not
myself.
used to it.
Yeah, I'm not used to this kind of calmness. I remember driving, I was going to pick up my daughter from school after the session, and I was like, why am I so calm? Like, why am I not getting all agitated the way I generally do? And when I came home after that, I realized that I was just not as exhausted as I would generally be after driving to school and coming back.
Mm.
Generally, I would come back and I would go and lie down immediately. But I didn't have that need to lie down immediately. And that got me a little interested, that what is this, what is this? It was just an hour and I'm not feeling as it
Yeah.
first did. And that's when I went on to the net and I read about Access, and I read a lot of good stuff. I also read a lot of bad stuff, as is everything is
Yeah.
available out there, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I still remember telling myself, you know what, this good stuff about Access, there's an energy there. I didn't understand. Today I'm using the word energy. Back then I didn't even know what it was. It was just something like, I know this. I know this. I know what they're saying, and I know there's something possible here. It didn't make sense. There was no way of explaining it to somebody as to what would change for me. But I do remember I reached out to my brother-in-law, who's R.D. Singh, who actually brought Access to India, and I remember reaching out to him and telling him, "Hey, I really want to learn what you do." And well, I went in for my bars class, and then the rest is history. Life just changed. One bars class, and then the foundation class, and today it's been 6 years, and I'm totally medicine free. I feel really happy. I feel enthusiastic about living, and I am passionate about bringing the tools to the world, because I know that there's something that lies beyond the medication. There's something that lies beyond the pain and the sufferings and the problems that we've made so real for ourselves. And that something is just choice. And it's just so simple. And if people really get that, and if you can give that to, not when a person is 47 like I was, but if you can give it to every child, like literally a hand tool, that, hey, this is your handbook of tools, and this is what I want you to read, and I want you to know that you have choice. And what if we can actually bring that to every child, to every parent, to every person? This country would be different. This world would be so different.
True.
Yeah.
So when you chose to be a certified facilitator, and now we have this entire Facebook group that says Road to CF, where there's a lot of support. But I don't know back then how was it when you chose to do one course after the other and facilitate, and how did you choose that?
That's really interesting you ask me that, Niveditha, because when I actually did my bars class, I just chose it for myself. I wasn't bothered about changing the world. I was not bothered about consciousness. For me, all of that didn't even exist. For me, it was just about, I have pain and I want to change my life. I have pain and I want to change my body. That was it. I was coming from completely obsessed about changing my own life. Nothing. I wasn't really bothered about anything else. Yes, it included my family, but that was it. That was how small my life was. There was nothing beyond that. I couldn't even imagine beyond that. So at that time, when I actually chose classes, it was just to change my body. I remember I did the bars, and then I did the foundation, and then I was going for the Being You class in Mumbai. Dr. Dane was coming, and I remember a couple of people called me and they said, "Why are you wasting money? It's not even a prereq." So I remember this conversation so clearly. And I said, "What do you mean by prereq?" He said, "Don't you want to become a facilitator?" I said, "No. I don't know what a facilitator is. I just want to become okay." And I'm going because this Dr. Dane, whoever he is, he's supposed to be the co-creator of Access. I'm going because he wrote this book, Being You, and I love the book, and I'm going to meet him, and I'm going to do the class. And I remember and after that, it was like, and I came back again. People were like, "So now are you becoming a facilitator? Are you going to do more bars classes? And are you going to be..." And I remember that time I said, "Okay, cool. Why don't I become a facilitator?" I became a bars facilitator. And again, I became a bars facilitator because there was so much of excitement to bring the tools to my family. I was like, my family is not going to spend the money and go to do these classes, so let's just become a facilitator and teach them free. That was more my outlook. I was like, let's just get them on board, whatever it takes to get them on board. And and after that, it's just, I did the body class, and for me, it was just about whatever called out to me, I went for that class. I didn't follow any pattern or any system, because I was not really vested in becoming a facilitator at all back then. And I remember 2 years went by with me just being a bars facilitator, and I was very happy with the way it was going. I still remember one day my husband and I were sitting, and he said, "Why don't you facilitate the foundation class also?" I said, "No, I don't have the prereqs, and I don't have the license." And he didn't know anything about Access. He just knew I was facilitating bars classes. So he said, well, why don't you go do it? I said, no, it's really expensive. I need a lot of more. I need to buy more material. I need to do more this and I need to do more that. And he was like, go do it. So I remember looking at his face and saying, really? But that's very expensive. He said, that's okay. Go do it. And that's when he actually put that thought into my head that I could even do it. And the next morning I woke up and I actually went through what was really required. Until then, I didn't even know what was required to become a CF. And that was when I actually looked at, I need to buy these telecalls and I need to do so many more classes. And within a week, within 10 days, I flew off to Santa Barbara to do my SOP because I hadn't done an SOP back till then. And I just bought everything else that was required. And this was in a month, July, I went to Santa Barbara. I came back to India. It was so beautiful. Everything was so wonderful. I bought the material. It just literally everything just fell into my lap. And August, I was back in America and I went to Costa Rica to do my CF, my first CF, which was, it's now been about 4 years. And well, since then it's just been one choice after the other and just choosing more and yeah.
So how did the talk to the entities happen?
Oh, talk to the entities is another story. And I did talk to the entities class. When I did the class, I have two extremely aware girls. Both my daughters are extremely aware to the extent of where it used to be uncomfortable with the awareness, to the level of awareness that they've had and not knowing what to do with it. But this was barely 4-5 months into Access, and I had just done my foundation class. And I remember both of them would tell me, Mom, don't switch off my lights in the room. I sense something. And I would get really angry when they would do that. And I would say, switch off the lights and sleep. And they'd be, no, Mom, don't switch off the light, please. And for them, it was almost like an abuse when I would shut the lights off and shut the door. Because today I realize they were really aware of what is happening in the room. And they didn't have the tools. And they didn't have a mother who was really... who was empowered enough to give them the tools at that time. For me, it was just like, close your eyes, switch off your lights, switch off your awareness and sleep. That was the only thing I knew. Close your awareness when you don't know what to do with it. And so when this talk to the entities came along, again, there was this wonderful facilitator from Bombay who called me. She said, would you like to host me? And I said, no, not for talk to the entities. I'm not doing that class. I'm not interested. And she was like, why? I said, no, I don't want to do that class. I was just so resisting it. I was like, no, that's total craziness. I'm not going there. And she called me again after 2 months and she said, you know what? I really would like you to host me. And I was like, no. And I remember putting the phone down and I just, in that moment, I just said, so why does she keep calling me when I don't want to host her? And my daughters were sitting there and they said, Mom, for which class? I said, talk to the entities. They said, you are going to host her. I said, no. Yes, Mom, you're going to host her and we're going to do it. I looked at their faces and I said, but I don't want to do it. They were like, Mom, if you're not hosting her, I am hosting her. So I was like, oh, no, I'll do it. I don't want you to do the class, please, please. So for me at that time, I was like, okay, I'll do the class. You don't do the class. I didn't want to take my kids to that area, right? For me at that time, it was such an area where you don't want to venture into. I remember I hosted her. We had a beautiful, huge class of a number of people. And of course, my daughters were there. They always get their way. And they chose the class. Both of them sat through it. And it changed so much, so much. After one class, for the first time in 23 years, Isha turned around and said, Mom, can you switch off the light? I'd like to go to bed. For the first time, she was able to sleep with the lights out with no fear, which was just absolutely amazing. And even then, I didn't want to become a facilitator. I was like, no, itna hi theek hai, bas, kar liya, bahut hai. I remember at that time, there was this, this has now been 2 years. This is going to be my 3rd year for being a facilitator of TTTE. So 2.5 years ago, I don't remember when it was, we were all sitting together in the room, and I had a very bad, I'd had one of those intense moments with my body where, my body was really, really intense and I was barely able to sit up after a very long time. And I was like, oh, my body is in so much pain. I think I need to go to the doctor again. There's something not right about it and stuff like that. And I was sitting again with my husband and my kids. And while lying down, my husband said, fine, let's just go to your neurologist in the morning. Let's take an appointment. So I called up the doctor at Max and I took an appointment. He was my old doctor. So he was like, I told you this won't last. His first thing. I told you this is too good to be true. Come tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. He sounded so happy. I was like, oh my God, like, really? Am I back to square one? Anyhow, I remember after that, I switched off the phone and I just silently asked the universe to show me. I said, universe, show me what am I resisting? Show me what is that if I choose it, would have me really receive ease with my body. And I in my mind, I was just asking the question, not knowing, not really cognitively knowing what it was. And I said, show me, and I'm willing to receive it. And just
I think
then I
that's
remember,
where you got the message of TTTE.
yeah, I picked up my phone and I clicked on Facebook. And the first thing was TTTE Facilitators. And I remember my reaction was to shut my phone and throw my phone and said, no, I don't want to become a TTTE Facilitator. And well, after that, it just, I was like, fine, universe, if that's what it takes to have ease with my body, I'll choose it. And since then, the next day I didn't need to go to the doctor. The pain was gone. I called up the doctor and said, Doc, I'm fine. I don't think I need to come see you. He was not very happy with that. But well, one choice can change everything for you. If you really trust the universe.
One choice is more than equal to 100 awarenesses, right? So
yes. And also, you got to choose to have awareness. Choice creates awareness. And you've got to choose to know. We constantly wait for the awareness to choose, but it doesn't work that way. You've got to choose to receive the awareness. You've got to choose to have the awareness. And if you just keep putting it off, if you keep putting your choice off, like I could have in that moment put my choice off. I could have said, I don't have enough money, or I could have said, I don't have enough time. My younger daughter's exams are starting in the same week. I could have used that as an excuse. These are all reasons and justifications we give ourselves not to choose. And there are always reasons and justifications not to choose, more than reasons and justifications to choose. Because when you look at making a choice, very rarely do you really, really find a cognitive choice, cognitive reason. It's just about, but then there's so many reasons and justifications why you shouldn't choose. And
there must be equal number of reasons why we should also, actually, which we don't.
Yeah, but we don't really even, you're not able to see the cognitive reasons of why you shouldn't choose is very visible to you, because that comes from this reality, that comes from the points of views of this reality.
And it's more acceptable.
More acceptable. And most of us use money, time, or children as an excuse not to choose. I don't have the money, I don't have the time, or my kids are unwell, or my kids have exams, or I can't leave my kids, or my family, or it's either one of these three. We never go really beyond that. We don't need to go beyond that.
Right.
But and then when you really choose, it's really from a space of, I'm choosing it, I have no reasons for it, but I'm choosing it.
Yeah, there's so much ease in that, actually. Things fall in place so easily, you're like wondering how.
Yeah.
But that's magic.
Absolutely. That is
and
the magic.
You cannot decode it. If there is no necessity to decode it, the moment you get to decoding it is when we pull back into that space.
Yeah. That decoding is such a lie, because really decoding just gets your mind into the way, gets your thinking into the way, and it takes you away from you. Right. And now you become a decoder. That's it.
Not a chooser.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And what about conscious parents, conscious kids?
Conscious parents, conscious kids.
Who is that for, actually?
Oh, that's another. This is strange. Thank you for these questions, Niveditha. Thank you for these questions. I haven't really thought about these questions.
I'm specifically asking because most of the time, like when I came to being you in April last year, Reshma was going around in a ghost costume and saying, conscious parents, conscious kids, entities. And I was like laughing my guts off. I'm like, I was like, okay, when you go and tell someone conscious parents, consciousness feels heavy to people who are not choosing it.
Yeah.
At the same time, it feels like a huge thing that we cannot do. It's like a beyond. But
it's almost, I don't know if it feels heavy. It feels not true.
Yeah. in
because
their
really,
world.
yeah, in their world, because consciousness is something that we really haven't looked at. So for them, something that's not definable, something that's not explainable, doesn't exist.
So there is a specific reason I'm asking this question is most parents, or at least our generation, the previous generation, whoever wants to choose something, they are ready to choose something for their kids, but not for themselves.
Yeah, very
And
true.
conscious parents, conscious kids is not just about you being conscious with the kids, it's about you being conscious and reparenting yourself, is my
Yes,
understanding.
absolutely.
So I would like
It's,
that.
yeah. Thank you for those questions. It's just kind of getting me to realize, yeah, that's when I chose it. Oh, okay, that's how I chose it. Interesting. So it's like, again, this was in Rome. We had gone for the CF training, Isha and I, and this is one of the third or the fourth day of our training. And they just announced that we're going to be having a little cocktail evening, and if anybody wants to know about a quick, like an hour chat, and if any of you want to know anything about conscious parents, conscious kids, come and join us on, so and so, on in this so and so room and so and so table. And I was like, I'd like to go for that. It just kind of pulled me, and I was like, I'm going for that. I remember we were a number of us sitting together, and I looked around with these big excited eyes, and everyone just looked at me, and they just looked away, like, what are you getting so excited about? And I was like, oh, it's not so exciting. Okay. And I remember sitting down and saying, oh, stupid me, I just get excited about everything. And Isha was sitting next to me, and she said, Mom, that's nice. I'm like, yeah, but maybe not, and whatever. And then the class finished, and it was time to go for our little meeting with conscious parents, conscious kids, and to know more about it. And Isha said, so are you going for the class, for the meeting? And I said, no, I'm not. She said, why? I don't know. I'm just not interested anymore. And she said, Mom, you're going, because I saw that initial excitement on your face. You're going. So I was like, no, Isha, I don't think it's really going to be a class that will create in the world. And she says, really? You don't think, but what do you know? I remember her asking me this. She says, Mom, that first expression of yours was something that you knew. I was like, okay, I'll go. So I went and I heard them. And as I sat there, we were like barely 10 of us out of class of 200 people. Just 10 of us had gone. And as I sat there and we talked about the possibilities of creating a future, you being a contribution to creating a future that your children will be. That's something that's so beyond this reality, because now you're not coming from a space of, I have to do it this way because this is how it's always been done. But you're actually going to ask, what is possible here?
Yeah.
So you're not really forcing and enforcing your kids to do it in a certain manner because that's the way it's been done, or that's the way it's supposed to be done. But you're really willing to allow your children to know what they know,
Mm.
which is so not heard of in the world. We're supposed to tell our kids what to do. Parenting is supposed to be about the right way and the wrong way. And here they were talking about no right way, no wrong way, just possibilities. It
Yeah.
was truly an open playground. And yeah, I came home and I just sent out my application and I sent out the fees for it, and whatever had to be done. And I think I became a CPCK facilitator instantly. Yeah. And it's created so much ease, Nivedita. The, the, the level of, um, I don't want to use the word satisfaction because it really goes beyond just satisfaction, but the level of possibilities that show up every time that we facilitate this class. And it's so beautiful because Isha and I facilitated together as mother and daughter. And the possibilities that show up every time that we facilitate this class changes not just their lives, it changes our relationship. It starts to permeate into the family. It's truly a family class.
Yeah.
It's about everywhere you've been a child and you're holding on to certain past, suppressed fears, suppressed anger, suppressed hate, suppressed fury, suppressed all kinds of emotions which you're not even aware of.
Mm.
They're just there. They're just there. And, you think that they're not there because you don't get to see them, but you're
Yeah.
actually based your entire choices on that.
Yeah.
It's only when you actually let them out and let them go and let them literally, you look at them and say, okay, it existed. All right, thank you very much. We're done. Bye. Now I can make a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would like you to, I mean, this is my ask for a contribution from you is
Yes.
in the last few minutes we have had, you said, I don't know, I don't want to choose, and yet you chose. I would like you to contribute from that space of if this person who said, I don't want to choose but chosen, if you can connect with that energies across the world and say, can we just say, okay, how can they choose?
Yeah, that's a really great one, Nivedita. It's like when you know, you're first. What you know first is always your knowing. And we've got to learn to trust that. Today, it's been what, 2 years now, 2.5 years since I've been facilitating CPCK classes. And I trust my knowing much more than I did back then. Now it's like you start to recognize what is yours and what is not yours. Like in those few moments of choosing and then unchoosing. That's how we live our life. Because we choose from a knowing that we know is for us. And then because we are these SpongeBobs and we're just so aware of everybody's thoughts, feelings, and emotions, like I look around everybody and say, ah, did you see that? And everybody looks at me like, and I go into, oops, that was a stupid choice. So even in that moment, you've got to know that, hey, maybe it's not light for them. Doesn't make it wrong, but it's still light for me. And that's a space where you want to really step into. And that only comes from trust in what you know. And like I
This
said
all,
earlier, every choice you make creates awareness.
and this is also coming from a space of what Gary and Dane talk about as true leadership,
Yeah.
of being able to walk
Yes.
where no one has ever walked before.
Absolutely. Yep.
So what would it take to have true leaders, even, getting the sense or the essence of this conversation and say, can I be a true leader instead of a follower?
Yes. Absolutely.
So I
And
wonder what would it take.
and to be that true leader, you really have to be willing to trust yourself. So when I came, I remember when I was the first one who had a class in the world, and Isha and we did it in America. And I remember when Isha and I were in America, we didn't even have a manual for this class after it was, and I remember saying, oops, we don't even have a manual, and it had just been opened up for everybody. Before that, it was just Glenna and Brendan and Megan and I think Emily. These were the only four, and not Emily, sorry, Grace Douglas. These were the only four who really used to facilitate CPCK classes. It was not opened for the rest of the facilitators, and this was the first year that was open to everybody. And that was when when I said, okay, I'm doing the class. And I remember going to, I was having the class in Los Angeles, and Isha and I were laughing because one day before the class, we didn't have a manual. So I remember sending an email to the CPCK team saying, guys, I don't have a manual. Tomorrow's my class. And they were like, we'll get you one right away. And they were so wonderful. They sent me a manual right away. And it was a one-day manual. And I remember both of us looking at when you got it printed, and our wonderful host got it for us. She and we were just looking at the manual and we were just crying. It was like a baby had just been born. The energy of the manual, the energy of the class is so beautiful. I mean, I can just keep talking about that class because it's truly something that's really beyond this reality. Yeah. And then we did ours again was the first 2 day CPCK class in the world, which was not, which was never done before. I was the first one to facilitate a 2 day CPCK
How
class
does it get
after it
any
opened
better?
up to the world. Before that, of course, there was Brendan, who's phenomenal. There was Glenna Rice, who's absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
Then there's Megan, and there was, of course, Grace Douglas, who's Gary Douglas's daughter, and they were all facilitating the class. But truly, after Gary opened it up to the world, there have been so many more classes happening all around the world. Now we have more facilitators, and we have more facilitators showing up from different parts of the world who are wanting to facilitate CPCK, because, we see the possibility of creating a future. It's literally like you're sowing seeds. And you
Yes.
may or may not be there tomorrow, but you've sown the seeds.
Yeah.
And, that is us creating a planet and creating the future as we know is possible. Whether anyone goes with you, whether nobody goes with you, but you are still doing that. And that's true leadership, where you don't require everyone to follow you, or you don't require anyone to say, you're right, I like your point of view, but you just go with it because you know it's going to create something.
Yeah. So thank you for being such a contribution.
Thank you.
And thank you for writing some books too.
Mm.
Would you like to talk about how you got around to actually putting it on paper?
Yeah,
Because
funny one. Oh dear. The first one was breaking free from pain points. I
yeah,
wrote that in the car from a drive. I mean, I was driving from Delhi to Punjab with the family, my husband, my kids, my parents. We were all driving down, and it was about 2:30 in the afternoon, and everyone went off to sleep, and just the driver was driving. Everyone was asleep in the car, and I remember I was getting bored, looking out of the window, and I began making some notes. I didn't know what I was doing. It was literally like, at that moment of time, cognitively, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just making notes. And I kept making notes in the notes of my phone, by the way, not on a laptop, nothing. Okay. I just kept writing. And by the time we had reached Punjab, which was about 5 hours after that, I had almost 20 or 30 pages of notes written out. And I looked at all of it, and it kind of seemed to be flowing one into the other, into the other, into the other. Needed to be edited, but it was kind of flowing.
yeah,
And I looked at it and I said, is this a book? I remember going to the hotel, sitting on the chair, looking at my phone, reading what I had written. And I remember asking myself, is this a book? And I was like, yeah, it's a book. That's when it was like, okay. And that's when I actually got down to reading it again and then editing it. And then I wanted to bring to the world that change with the body is possible. And that's what the book was about, the body, the relationships, your money flows, because I had seen problems in all of that. I seen problems with my body. I had seen a lot of issues with money flows, where my husband's businesses were doing so well, and suddenly overnight everything was, the factories got shut down, or it was an overnight, like it was literally like you wake up in the morning and everything's different. And then because of the pain in the body, because of the financial reality being so suddenly so not really fun, it began to seep into my relationships, and my relationships with my friends began to get really sour. My relationship with those who I felt were really close to me began to get kind of bitter. And I was literally fighting everybody, fighting everything around me just to survive. It was not about thrival. It was just, I just want to stay alive. It was literally like that. And when so much changed for me after Access, I wanted to bring that to the world. I was like, guys, there's more possible. And I knew the way to bring it out would be to actually write a book where, not even if everyone doesn't come for just a talk or a conversation around Access, they get to buy the book and they get to read it. That one person reading it, it's not a thick book, it's just a 140 pages book. You read it in 3 days, you read it in 4 days, and everything changes for you. I've had people call me and tell me that, my God, I read that book and my relationships just changed. What was that? I'm like, cool. What else is possible?
yeah,
Yeah. And then the second book was The Elegance of Being a Bitch, where we talk about a bitch in this reality as somebody who's really mean, nasty, horrible. All of that put together. And I love the way Access talks about a bitch is just about one who knows what she's choosing, and one who trusts her knowing and carries on with her life, choosing what she chooses without the fear of ever being ridiculed or made wrong.
wow,
And that in this reality is looked as a bitch, because she has the guts to choose. She has the
yeah,
guts to know what she knows and to trust herself. Right? And that was a book which I wanted to bring that out, because there were so many people who would hear the word bitch and either feel really proud to be one, or because I'm an access, I'm a bitch, yay, or else it
And
would
yet
be
there is
like,
a fight in it still.
there's a huge fight in it, right? And on the other hand, there would be people who'd be like, how can you even use the word bitch? Because that was me before access. I would be like, a lady doesn't use the word bitch.
Mm.
But truly, that changed so much for me when I started to see that the words have the word bitch too is a judgment that we put on it.
Mm.
What if it didn't have judgment? What if the word didn't have a judgment attached to it?
Yeah.
Then what is it? It's just a word with a
And if we
different
didn't know
energy.
that about that bitch, what
Yeah,
else do we
then
know?
what else do we know? Yeah.
Oh,
And what
that's my
that
favorite
is.
question from Isha.
Yeah. Yes, truly. And then I wrote another book for children, which is just for teenagers and their parents. It's called Choose Freedom, which I
Yes,
wrote just before becoming a CPCK
Vidura and I
facilitator.
read it.
Yes, yes. Well, those are my books. And of course, I wrote Shishu Adventures for little children, which
Mhm.
is on gratitude and on oneness in the world. So I do a lot of free book reads for kids, and I love reading those books for children. I just feel it brings more joy into the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about creating beyond?
Creating Beyond is
I
again a
feel that you're
class.
the
Yeah.
right person for that because you walk the talk.
Oh, thank you, Niveditha. That is such a kind and so kind of you to even say that. Thank you. Yes, I do try to walk my talk, and I am walking my talk because I'm constantly willing to be vulnerable with everywhere I don't walk my talk.
Yes.
So I can now change it.
And
Yeah.
thank you for the vulnerability you have shown right now, because everybody thinks that, oh, they're all sorted. It's not about being
No,
sorted. There's nothing
no,
called sorted. It's
no,
about
not at all.
being open,
Yeah,
vulnerable,
yeah,
having the courage
yeah.
to take that 2 steps forward and go boom, boom, boom.
Yes, yes.
So that's my take on you, is like, that's who you are, the lady
Yeah,
who goes
yeah,
2 steps forward, boom, boom,
yeah,
boom.
yeah. And I fall, but I stand up again.
Yeah.
And I know that one fall cannot stop me. And yeah, and that's what you want to be with yourself in every sphere of your life. Every sphere of your life. Know that nothing can keep you down unless you choose to stay down.
So for me, Chandana Bawa, creating beyond are like interchangeable.
I know, so funny. Somebody else said that to me. CB. I'm like, okay. I didn't think about that
It's
initially.
before Chandana and after.
Oh, well, it's all one, all rolled into one. Before, after, all one. Yeah. So Creating Beyond is actually a class that I started about 3.5 years ago. I had it approved by Access. I actually called it Creating Beyond Religion, Ethnicity, and Culture at that time. That's what I had called it. And I got it approved by Gary and Dane. I remember Gary seeing the name and and he said, it's a beautiful class. And I said, yeah, but it's not getting chosen. No one's choosing it. No one's coming for this class.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, are you creating for the future? I was like, am I? Okay, probably. But I lost interest because for almost a year and a half, the class, nobody really chose it. One
Yeah.
person, two people. The class was not being, received by anybody.
Yeah.
And it was only about a year back when, the class chose to, the name, just one morning I got up and I said, oh, okay, the class wants to change its name. So we just changed the name from Creating Beyond Religion, Ethnicity, Culture to Creating Beyond, because it's not just limited to religion, ethnicity, culture, which
Yeah.
is included in the class, not as much as was before, but it's now about creating beyond any limitation, any definition, whether it's your gender, whether it's your religion, whether it's your ethnicity, whether it's your family or stratifications or whatever it is. It's creating
Yes.
beyond that and beyond that and beyond your five senses, which
Mm.
we had these exercises in the class where we actually ask you to, where we really take you through these beautiful exercises of really creating beyond just the five senses, which is knowing, being, perceiving, and receiving.
Mm.
When you really step into knowing, being, perceiving, and receiving is when you're operating as an infinite being. And before that, you're just stuck in the thoughts, feelings, and emotions of your five senses, because that's all that it does, right? Your mind controls your life. Your mind
Mm.
controls your choices, which is based on what was and what is, as a space from where you can choose. It's not about what am I aware of. And creating beyond is really about what do you know,
Mm.
and what are you aware of that you can create now. And that class has been creating beautifully, just creates on its own. People just choose it, and they're like, and the feedback I get from it is just so beautiful, because they're
So how
like,
is it now? Like, is it a 1 month class
no, so
online,
it's a
or is it?
1 day,
It's a
a
1 day class.
1.5 day class. It's an intro and a 1 day class. Some
Okay.
people just choose the intro. Some people want to do all 1.5 days. It's also telecalls that I do. As of now, I've not done too many telecalls. It wants to be more of 1.5 day classes. I just allow the classes to show up and just to direct me and take me wherever they want to go.
Who knows? You might have a career beyond university soon.
Oh, what'll it take? I like that idea. Let's put it out in the universe. Thank you. Yeah.
So thank you so much. Is there anything else that I haven't asked you a question, but is there something that you would like to speak about?
I would just like to say I'm so grateful to you.
Thank you.
Truly.
Thank you so much. And I will be putting out all the description with the details of how to get in touch with you.
Thank you.
And let's see what this will create. I'm looking for a future 10,000 years ahead for a sustainable living planet,
Absolutely.
for talk to entities, for creating beyond, for conscious parents, conscious kids, for people choosing to change their foundations, choosing to just have ease in their life and just be happy.
Yeah. Yep.
And each time a person says, I don't want to choose this, they actually get programmed to choose it.
Yeah, that's a big one, because everything you resist, there's something that's hidden behind there. There's some magic that's hiding behind there.
Like Gary says that if two people are having a conversation about something, it will materialize. So
Yes.
I
Yes.
am having this conversation with you just to say that anytime anybody's not choosing and that becomes an awareness, it immediately transforms into choosing. That's what I like out of this.
What will it take? What will it take? Yes. What will it take to always know that it's better to choose than not to choose?
Yeah.
Because anytime you don't choose, you're just stuck where you are. So many don't choose because of fear of making a mistake or being wrong or not getting the right answer. Just choose and trust the universe and trust yourself with it.
And what would you choose if you never could fail? You know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So on that note, thank you so much. And thank you so much for your energy and contribution for this ask.
Thank you, sweetheart. I'm so grateful for you once again. Grateful for